And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kibi, and this is Chapter 10 of my Fire Emblem 8 0% Growths low turn count playthrough. Chapter 10 is kind of an alright map. It's notably the first defend map in the game. Defend maps in general are kind of less interesting and less proactive than other maps. Usually for something like defeat boss, you kill the boss, or seize, you get the lord over, defeating the boss in the process, or route, the most proactive of them all, killing every single enemy in the map. Tough stuff, you have to put in some effort. However, defend maps are not really as, you don't really have to put in as much effort. The thing you mainly have to do is defend a certain NPC usually. However, usually, you're in position to just protect the NPC from any and all harm. And so, there's no real concern, you can kind of just sit back and let the turns roll by, doing whatever side objectives you so desire. And that would be kind of boring, especially in an LTC map, or LTC playthrough such as this. However, thankfully, Fire Emblem 8 has a remedy for this, and that's to introduce an alternative win condition. That alternative win condition being something that we're all familiar with, defeat boss. If you defeat the boss of a defend map, that map will instantly end on that turn, and that's really great because it means that we can clear these chapters quickly. And that's interesting and stuff. Good enough. However, defeating the boss in this map is kind of tough, so we need to deploy most of our units and go all out. We can't do something cheesy like in Chapter 6 where we basically sent Seth and Vanessa on a solo mission to negate the boss. We need to send most of our forces over. Speaking of the boss, it looked like it was a Mage Knight earlier in a little cutscene. However, in the said cutscene, the boss changed identity. It went from a Mage Knight to a Ranger, a promoted Ranger. And that's kind of tough. We're gonna need to use additional units in order to deal with that boss reliably. We'll see soon enough. However, in order to have a chance versus this boss, we have to get over to him quickly. And that's kind of tough because of all of these fighters and mercenaries. However, thanks to the efforts of units such as Ford and Tana, Ephraim, Joshua, we just about managed to clear a way for Seth so that he can progress. As you can see, he used the Axereaver to defeat the Lancereaver Myrmidon. I guess now is a good opportunity to talk about the Reaver weapons. Essentially, the Reaver weapons, their primary purpose is to reverse the weapon triangle. And what that means is, usually most swords have the tendency to win against axes, weapon triangle advantage, and lose against lances, which is disadvantage. And you suffer various hit and might boosts as a result. However, the Lancereaver, which is also a sword, reverses the weapon triangle, and that means that it actually beats lances and loses to axes. Not only that, but it also doubles the weapon triangle effects, which means that you will do especially well versus lances, and you will do especially bad versus axes. To be more specific, it doubles the weapon triangle effects, so you will experience plus 30 hit on advantage as opposed to the usual plus 15, and that sort of thing. Easy enough to understand, I think. There's also the Axereaver, which is the lance version, which is good against axes but bad against swords. So now, for the rest of this map, we have to transport some of our units. We have to get most of our mounts over, Kyle and Franz and that sort of group. We have Seth clearing out the boss area. He can still do that pretty reliably. He doesn't really need to kill many of the Myrmidons. Actually, he doesn't need to kill any. He just needs to weaken them for the most part, I think. And most importantly, we have Vanessa transporting Ephraim over to where the NPCs are kind of looking around. And among those NPCs is a Great Knight, a recruitable Great Knight. His name is Duessel, and he's an absolutely fantastic unit. Finally a unit who can kind of compare combat-wise to Seth. His stats are just absolutely fantastic. He has the best overall bulk in both physically and magically at this point of the game, so he won't be dying to really anything whatsoever. He has all of the swords, lances, and axes at all A rank, so he can use basically any melee weapon this early in the game. That's so great. And especially the axes is pretty important, because the boss, Baron is a tough cookie to deal with. We can't double him with really anything, anyone. And he has a Lancereaver, which, as you recall, is good against lances, but bad against axes. And, I mean, the logical response is, well, just use an axe user. However, we just got Duessel, and we're preparing to use him, and outside of Duessel, our only other axe user is Garcia, and technically Ross, I guess. And of course, those guys would not stand a chance against a promoted boss. So it's very fortunate that we get Duessel and his axes to deal with the boss. Otherwise, he's a very tough cookie to deal with, man. Many LTCers like to joke around about, say, Murray or Tirado or Vigard being kind of the final bosses of the game, since they're really tough to kill quickly. I would say Baron is kind of the equivalent. We still defeat him, you know, in like one turn, that sort of thing. However, what we have to go through is still kind of tough. And as you can see, it's still not that simple. We had to carry along a lot of our mounts, all to deal with this turn upcoming. We have Duessel and Seth frontline these mercenaries so that no one else really gets threatened. However, they, in addition to the Cavalier, one of the Cavaliers, blocks Duessel's way to the boss, and that's no good, which is why we brought other combat units like Ephraim along. Although Ephraim was already in position from recruiting Duessel. So we have to clear a mercenary, and we also want to kill both of the Cavaliers, because they both drop pretty valuable items. The top one that Seth is gonna one-round KO carries a Horse Slayer. And of course, Horse Slayers are effective against mounted units, Cavaliers, and the sort, and that will actually be pretty helpful in killing this next Cavalier. However, as you can see, our units aren't as good as Seth, so it takes an entire 3, including Horse Slayer Ford, in order to take down a single Cavalier. Kinda demonstrates how our units are declining in terms of combat capacity. However, finally, with the finishing blow from Vanessa, we are finally ready to deal with this boss. I should note that up top we have a few units kind of just running around. There's also a torch village over there. However, we're not getting it. There's no need. We can buy torches. There is also the village that Vanessa visited earlier that has the Hero Crest, the promotional item for Joshua. That will be quite nice since he gets level 10 right here. And just to show how tough Baron ends up being, even with the Killer Axe critical from the super weapon triangle disadvantage, that still isn't enough to kill Baron. And that's pretty problematic, because we look like we don't have any other combat units to finish him off. However, thankfully, Tana is able to recruit this Wyvern rider. His name is Cormag, and he's an absolutely great combat unit, and he's a flyer. That's a bonus, and he's close to promoting, comes with his own promotional item, and to top it all off, we're able to get him this Bosskill that gets him to level 10 so that he's ready to promote next chapter. We get a Knight's Crest from saving the NPCs, and that is chapter 10 completed in 5 turns. See you guys next time.